All right, welcome back to another Modified Rides podcast. Today I have someone I've been trying to get on since the very first episode. For some reason, he keeps avoiding me. Swears he's busy, but I don't know if it's true or not. Today I have an industry icon. I don't want to pump his head up too much. Industry icon, industry leader, I guess you would say. Today I have Mike Alexander. What's going on, Mike?
Hey, buddy. Good to finally connect. Sorry, man.
Yeah, every week, man. You got time this week? He's like, yeah, maybe Tuesday. And Tuesday comes around. Nah, I can't do it. Last time we had scheduled, he had to go get a passport fix and canceled on me last minute. And
quick London trip, no biggie.
So me and Mike go way back. I'd say, I think I met you in maybe 04, something like that at SEMA.
03, 04.
Yeah. So I've worked with Mike off and on over the years for, at mini trucking, at street trucks and stuff. Like he's kind of not left my life in the last 20 years. And the funny part is I actually had somebody ask me one day, like Mike got brought up in conversation and they were like, hey, do you and Mike like each other? And I'm like, well, why do you say that? It's like, well, from all y'all's interactions on like Facebook, you'd swear y'all hate each other. I'm like, no, that's just Mike.
Just giving you crap. Real friends keep you honest, right?
Those that know Mike know that if he's not giving you hell, then he don't like you.
Yeah. If I'm like, hey, good to see you.
So I guess let's go back. I kind of know some of the backstory on Mike. Some of you guys do, but those that aren't tied to Mike's circle, I guess, don't know his upbringing and kind of where he got to where he's at now, which, as far as I can consider, is a pretty big role in our industry. So, what got you started in the custom vehicle world?
Well, all the way back to the very beginning. I mean, I was one of those kids going to the truck shows, tagging along on Mike Finnegan, pulling his arm, wanting to work in a magazine, similar to yourself, 17, 18, 19 into custom vehicles, cutting them up with buddies in the garage, ordering pizza and shaving one door handle at a time, in high school. So going to truck shows at an early age, I was exposed to the magazine editors being in SoCal, Mike Finnegan and Lance and those guys running around, Brian McCormick, Courtney, Steve, even John. We all kind of ran around in SoCal going to the truck shows. So I was like, that'd be kind of a fun job. How does one get to just go to truck shows, hang out with their buddies, and take photos
and
for
get
the
paid
rest of their lives?
And get paid for it.
And get paid for it. Yeah. So Mini Trucking Magazine actually put an ad in for an assistant editor to just help, carry camera gear and get hazed. And, I'm good at that, right? So I applied. I drove up to Placentia, I think in my bagged 93 Yoda way back, that Daily Dragger before it was at Chassis by Aaron and all that. It was just stock and cut up and breaking every time I drove it. But I drove it up to the Mini Trucking office and I interviewed and with Lance and Finnegan and all those guys.
What year was this?
2002.
Okay.
Maybe 2001, early 2000s. Maybe 2002, yeah. Because I had just come out of, I was at Circuit City, and that's actually how I met Mike Finnegan. Mike Finnegan used to work at Circuit City, too, long time ago for Car Audio.
I've had several guys on the podcast that worked at Circuit City back in the day. Chris Pate at MTI.
Oh, yep, all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was a road shop manager, kind of one of the youngest on the West Coast, went to the Virginia management training, got keys to my own store at Circuit City, the whole nine. But, that job just wasn't cutting it. So, yeah, I went up to Placentia, the old building. I think it was McMullen Argus back then, but well before Prime Media. It was McMullen something. I think it was McMullen Argus. And I went up and I interviewed with Kevin Wilson. I think Steve was there still, and Brian McCormick. So it was kind of the old guard.
Yeah.
And I interviewed. We had to shoot a sample feature on film. So you had to cut up the film on the light table, to do your feature and all that.
Did you know how to do that before then?
No. So bought my first camera to do this interview. I had not taken photography classes. I had not taken any, obviously there wasn't digital cameras back then.
Yeah.
You're older than me, though. I'm going to bring that up several times. But. But yeah, so that was my first feature shoot, was for the interview at Mini Trucking Magazine.
Oh wow.
I had written some college courses in business and writing and just, being kind of grammatically correct here and there, but photography was not my thing like it was John's or, other guys in the industry. It was just trucks. Like I loved slammed trucks.
Yeah. So you got hired on as assistant editor, which you says '02 or so. Like I said, I met you. I remember Johnny O introduced me to you at SEMA '04. I mean, I know who you were just from reading your name and stuff in the magazine, but I also had something brought up on another podcast the other day that early on or whatever. Eddie said you used to show up in polo shirts and like Docker shorts.
Yeah.
You hadn't learned the mini truck attire at that point.
Yep, I had button-up shirts. I was trying to be professional. I was learning, taking classes, trying to be a good editor, and quickly went back to mini truck traditions.
So, how long did you work at Mini Trucking?
I want to say I was there 9 years or so. It was like '02 to 11, something like that. 8 or 9 years for a long time.
Which is long for an editor. Most guys are only there a couple of years here or there.
Yeah, a lot of guys, even Finnegan and Courtney, they bounce around magazines because as an editor, to move up, if there's already an editor in chief, to be editorial director or something else, you have to go to another division. So like even Courtney went to like Hot Bike Mag.
Yeah.
And, John went from trucking to sport truck and all those things. Like you kind of had to move around from magazines, but I was hardcore, had to stay on Mini Trucking until I got my seat, editor in chief. Then from there, I was like, okay, how can I stay in this industry and actually make a living? Because as you know, editor is not the way.
Well, what was it? They used to say they wanted editors to be 25 years old, work 25 hours a day.
The perfect 24. 24 years old for 24 grand a year to work 24 hours a day.
And even back then in California, that wasn't shit.
Nothing. Yeah, we could barely afford the gas. It was tough.
So Mike's given me more magazine covers than anybody in the industry of him saying, hey, I want to use your pictures on this cover and that cover over the last 20 years. He's literally has let me have more covers than anybody. So I guess to say that I've done right by Mike would be what I'd say. He would probably say I didn't, but
with some training here and there. Well, didn't you say this is the 50th episode, maybe?
Yep.
And also your 50th cover just dropped, right?
Yeah. Which was one that I got with Mike's help. 51's already been shot. It just hadn't ran yet. So
there you go.
So, well, Mike's kind of led me in this, him, as I said on Johnny O's podcast, Mike and John's both kind of led me to where I am, have both pushed me. And Mike's the same way. He'd tell me what I did wasn't worth anything and this sucks, but do better, then I would do better and be like, see, I knew you had it, but in a
nicer way than that though. I'm super nice. I'm very nurturing, solid mentor.
Anybody watching this going to know that's not how that goes. But like I said, so I worked for Mike. I guess you took over when Lance left. When did Lance leave Mini Trucking?
Yeah, maybe 2006-ish.
So he was still there for a few years when you were there.
Yeah, I moved up to associate editor with Lance.
Okay.
And then after he left, I took over editor in chief for probably 5 more years or so.
Okay. And
my memory, it's pretty fuzzy.
And you pushed that magazine to, I guess, to the heights that it had gotten to. Like your view, your guidance. I know you've always talked about you're the one that got it all color, going from half black and white, half color to all color.
Yeah. So the crazy thing is, in print at that time, print's a lot different these days, obviously, but at that time, we were still printing black and white pages in Mini Trucking. To do calendars in full color and to get more pages in the magazine, you had to get more advertisers. Yeah. So we reached out one-on-one with close relationships and friends. Obviously, I grew up in this industry, so we visited a few people. Jason Thorbeck was one of them. That helped us expand the pages. As you know, being in the industry, for every 8 pages, you need an ad. And however that works, the cost. So I did all the business math. Back to business school here. but I basically presented the company with, hey, if we have X number of ad dollars, can we do X number of pages? So we expanded the book by 32 pages, and we went full color just by making some contracts with the proper advertisers and backers and partners.
Which at that time, that was the largest mini trucking magazine had ever been, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. We added 32 pages to it. We added that full pull-out poster to it. We were doing sub covers, which, as you know, shooting, it was fun to shoot a cover, but then we'd ruin it by putting all the words on it and trying to sell it on newsstands. But I actually went back to the drawing board and I was like, look, guys, subscribers already get the magazine, so they don't care what's on the cover. Let's do a really cool cover for subscribers and a different cover for newsstands, which not many people thought of or could do back then.
Yeah.
But I actually took a lot of cues from like Thrasher Mag and BMX and surfing and a lot of the extreme sports and lifestyle stuff. They did all kinds of cool stuff. So reading those magazines growing up in SoCal, I tried to bring some of that to the mini trucking pages.
Well, I know trucking did that for a while. It was like lifted trucks were on the newsstands and lowered ones were in the subscribers.
Exactly. Yeah. For a period there, we pitched this idea and we got it past the suits for a while until they said, no, we got to go back to one cover.
So you eventually left mini trucking. I get, that everybody jokes you're the one that killed mini trucking, but you're actually, I'd say, more influential in what that magazine became than the latter that the joke is.
Yeah, I think the 3 or 4 years it lasted after, the joke with John Beebe, actually, it originates with Drop'emware.
Oh shit!
Like, after you left, it wasn't the same, and it just kind of went down. But yeah, from there, I actually went to AccuAir suspension.
Okay.
That's when I started kind of doing marketing and being social media marketing and starting their social media pages, starting a new web page for them, and just doing more of the digital marketing, which is kind of where my career went, digital marketing wise.
Now is that about the time you started Slam Mag?
So no, the long and short of it was I love air suspension, but I didn't quite love working at that place.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, what can I do again to be happy, do something I love, but feed my family? So I actually went out, realized that publishing, just loving publishing and wanting a high quality web experience, because at that time, it was kind of the speed hunters era, right? Where digital magazines were just kind of kicking off, but there wasn't this print quality photography to the online blogs,
Yeah.
So it was kind of the perfect storm of wanting print magazine quality for the lowered car guys, cars, trucks. So I founded Slammed Magazine, and that's kind of my first full business myself, going into business for myself, being a business owner, and then recruiting a team, John and several of you guys alongside me to bring digital publishing kind of back to the quality and prestige that print mags kind of left that hole as all the mags started shutting down. Guys like us that were building cars, building trucks, just didn't feel good getting a blog feature.
Well,
we just weren't ready for it.
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
You can't do the plaques to hang in your office, and it's just totally different.
Yep. So, and I mean, that's exactly what in my head, I kind of wanted this digital magazine. We did an app, we did social media, we did all the cool new tech. We did a calendar, a printed calendar, and all these things. But over the years, just combining quality, like our saying was quality, not quantity, or quality over quantity. But we really just wanted to do something nice, something meaningful, something that, brought that quality to the forefront rather than just, scrolling on your phone.
Yeah. So where did you head after Slam Mag?
So Slammed was a few years, getting my feet wet, running my own business, still in SoCal, and kind of still having that itch for air suspension and air ride, wanting to do something different and unique there. So, you know how it is, the 2 a.m. thoughts, laying at night, sketching, drawing on napkins, like, oh man, what can I do? And that's how Flow Air Ride was born. So Flow Air Ride was kind of the next adventure. In that same time, my first son was born. So Lincoln came around, and, the wife and having a son and a roof over the head, I'm kind of like, all right, well, just doing digital online magazines isn't going to cut it yet. So
Yeah.
let's figure out something that, can keep the passion alive, keep the creative juices flowing, but still feed the family. So Flow Air Ride was born to create this modular air tank. And at the time, I wanted to do an all-in-one air suspension, air compressor, all these things. AccuAir had done something similar based on some input that I may or may not have given when I worked there. At that time, it was kind of, a renaissance for air suspension, right? Like new air compressors and air tanks and all these modular mounts and just design ideas, which I love, right? Creating things.
Yeah.
So Flow Air Ride led to manufacturing, having my own shop, building parts, shipping parts, much different than just running a magazine. So having employees on site in a shop, setting up my first SEMA booth ever. You and I, we've been going to SEMA for 20 years, but
Yeah.
to have your own booth at SEMA where it says, Flow Air Ride manufacturer, one, it's not cheap, but two, it's kind of a lifelong dream fulfilled, another check on the bucket
What
list.
year was that? Because that's when you were in the tent, wasn't it?
Yeah, the very first year. So you know how SEMA works with seniority, right? Like you have to work your way up to do booth selections. The very first year, I want to say that was all before COVID.
Yeah.
BC, 2018, 2017,
Sounds about
2016.
right. Because you were in the back of that tent outside the South Hall.
Yeah, by you guys, TIS and all that.
Yeah.
But that was the first year. The second year, we made it to the Central Hall, which is another big feat, right, to get into the Central Hall as a small company owner. But yeah, I want to say maybe 17 because I moved. So let's see. Let's work this backwards with the math. I moved to Oklahoma in 2020.
Had enough of California, huh?
Yes. Yeah, we're going to get into that. It was a few years before that with Flow. But yeah, so second son's born. My firstborn, Lincoln, is about to start school, and wife and I are chatting, and it's just kind of time to get out of California, Southern California. It was super fun growing up there, but it just wasn't for us anymore. Wanted a little bit more freedom, so we started looking elsewhere. My dad and my brother had moved to Oklahoma, years before. And I was like, nah, we'll never live in Oklahoma. Here we are. But yeah, 2020, God kind of spoke to me. Like, actually, I heard voice and was like, you got to get out of California. And I know this is odd and eerie and weird, but before COVID, before all the madness in California, we had decided as a family that we were going to move to Oklahoma. We'd flown out, went to my brother's wedding, found a house, did all the things, ended up driving truck, moving truck, sold house in California, bought house in Oklahoma. I drove back and forth cross country twice, flew the kids to Oklahoma. We settled in, and 2 months later, COVID hit. You couldn't get a moving truck. You couldn't do anything. Southern California, everything shut down. Everything's crazy, but I tell you what, in Oklahoma, it was not like that at all.
So
2 weeks later, we were going to the movies and going to restaurants, and like it had never happened here.
So you got out just in time.
So yeah, it was a blessing. House prices were great. We did good selling, moving. Obviously, cost of living here is much better.
Well, now you've got a farm with chickens and goats and stuff, right?
Are we talking about chickens? Actually, yeah. Now we have some land.
She forces you to have chickens, right?
Yeah, I kind of like it now. It's fun. Those fresh eggs, you can't beat them. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, what a few years, here has done. Like, we just settled down, really focused on the family. Kids are playing ball, going to school. It's a different life for sure. It happened fast.
It's not what you thought life would be growing up in Southern California, that you would have a slower paced family life.
Yeah. I mean, it's an amazing blessing. It's absolutely, the plan that you have as a kid generally isn't what, God has in mind or in store for you. And here we are, 40, I'm about to be 44, still younger than you.
Don't hate.
Yeah, it's crazy. 2 kids, little farm life in Oklahoma, and still doing car stuff. So
So
couldn't ask for a different plan.
I know we're kind of blowing through some of the logistics of this, but after you moved, you still had flow and everything. So then you had another big transition with everything you do. Get into that.
Yeah, so that's actually COVID related too, and I don't want to keep harping on COVID, but aluminum prices just went through the roof. Manufacturing became challenging. Everything that goes along with running a company, owning a company, and manufacturing product was elevated in difficulty rapidly. Like it got bad quick, right, for business owners. So we were already in Oklahoma. I had a small shop here. I was building and shipping tanks. Obviously, the joke, did it ship yet? I like demand was higher than I could produce. Building tanks one at a time by hand, right?
Yeah.
So being friends with Airlift for 20 years, working with them on several builds and SEMA cars and all those things, magazines and everything through the years. I just loved the team at Airlift, loved the culture and the people there. And at SEMA, I had a meeting with a good friend of mine, Corey, and some of the guys there. But they had mentioned purchasing some air tanks for testing and maybe helping manufacture them. We had started talking about them being the suppliers, so if they could sell them as the manufacturer, all these things. So those talks started to happen fairly rapidly, but it was about 2020, 2021, like early COVID. What I could buy aluminum for to produce an air tank just wasn't feasible. Like I'd have to charge $600 an air tank.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to spend $600 for an air tank. So, but they buy aluminum in such bulk, creating airbags, air cups, all the things that, aluminum products take. So the pricing they could get on aluminum wasn't going to be as drastic or affected as the pricing I could get.
Yeah.
Anyways, long story short, or long story longer, we started talking more and more. And instead of them dealing or buying some air tanks to distribute or manufacturing them for me, it turned into a talk of just taking over and merging. So working for Airlift full time and producing Flow Air Ride as part of Airlift. So those talks began, negotiations began, and it just made sense at the time to accept an offer from Airlift to join forces. So that process, it sounds easy, but it was about a 2-year process.
Oh, wow.
Engineering, testing, NDAs, blowing up air tanks, product liability, lawyers on both sides, due diligence on both sides, just making sure that it was going to be a good fit as a company, as a product, and as me.
Yeah.
So yeah, about 2 years later, like I couldn't say anything. Obviously, it was super under wraps for a little while. But yeah, when we announced that Airlift had taken over Flow Air Ride, the merger acquisition, all those things, it was great. Well received. Tanks started shipping by the pallets to, overseas, London, Dubai. It was really cool to see a product that I had sketched on a napkin come to life and be manufactured in a USA facility. To keep it here was important to me. To keep the name was important to me. A lot of those things that came to fruition, just another blessing, man. But it was, it couldn't come at a better time. It made sense for me and my family to get real health insurance again.
You are getting older, so.
Yeah, break a hip, just from sneezing. But all those things, it just kind of worked out and made sense. But I believe in Airlift. Obviously, I love and support Airlift, so it was a natural fit.
And they brought you on as a pretty good title right off the bat, didn't they?
Yeah, so director of marketing, brand manager of Airlift Performance, and all the things that I get to do over there now has expanded. Obviously, you helped us at SEMA this last year. To doing the truck side as well. So
yeah,
Airlift is kind of two brands. Airlift Company does the tow haul, help support, load support side of things, the truck stuff. And then Airlift Performance does the slammed, airbagged car stuff.
Yeah.
So obviously same company, but two very different product lines and brands and people groups. But yeah, so now I'm actually content marketing manager running the truck stuff and the slammed car stuff. So it's been a wild ride. It'll actually be 5 years this year
Oh wow, has it been that long?
Yeah, crazy, huh?
Wow. So they run you all over the world to different shows and events and stuff, trying to, I guess, push the brand.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we set up at shows. I mean, just like small shops, but we're very much a brand of the people by the people. So we go to the events, we support the events, we support builds, charities. We're out there. We're doing the things that you would expect from a small like a flow air ride. But even as a large manufacturer, Airlift is very proud to support the community, car shows, and but all over the world, yeah, worldwide. And it's
Yeah.
kind of neat too because it's different genres. Like we went to truck shows a bunch, obviously, but going to like a Euro show in Essen, in Germany, it's just such a different feel and vibe. So it's really cool to see all the different genres and niche that use air suspension in different and unique ways.
Now, didn't you say that like the Europe market is drastically bigger than what the American market is on the air suspension stuff?
Yeah, it's different. I mean, like volume wise, as a company, we sell much more in the US, but aesthetics wise and quality wise, like Europe just has this really cool, London cars that are bagged or RS6s in Germany, kind of like Japan, right? For the truck scene, they just do it at such a high quality mark with a lot of style, so a lot of our ads and photography and a lot of the things we do fashion wise or style wise comes out of Europe from the bagged car scene.
So where do you see the air ride market going in the near future? Do you see it blowing up more than what it has or taking different routes?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, ultimately, I think we're ever evolving because custom car guys, you and I, we always want to do something different, right? So
Yeah.
if everybody and their mom is bagged on rotiforms, like how can we be different?
Yeah.
So everything that we do as a company, we realize that, evolution is going to happen. So we have some things in the works for this year that are pretty exciting. Some things I can't talk about, but you might have seen the post and
Little
social media.
teasers. Yeah.
Yeah, we're dropping. But this is going to be an exciting year for Airlift. 2025, we have several new products coming to market. But also, as we all get older too, like I'm towing a camper now, so I've aged up into the other market that I'm also marketing for.
So you actually have vehicles that run and drive and function now, which is odd for you.
That is odd. That's an odd thing, right?
So
But
I
I
think the
also
one
don't
thing
deliver pizza anymore either. So
I think the one thing we've not touched on is some of the vehicles you've had, because you're the one that's known to never finish anything, right? I
that's a
think
bad rap. That's bad. How did I get all these plaques back there if I never finish anything?
I think I was the wasn't I the first one to shoot something you had done? Wasn't the Toyota the first thing you ever had finished?
Yeah, the drag shop, Brandon Perry, Tacoma, Blue Steel, that feature that you shot was the first, my own personal vehicle magazine cover feature finished. Every other article was always an under construction or a best engineered or crazy suspension. The problem is, back then with my wild ideas and napkin sketches over a beer, we came up with the dumbest, stupidest ideas you could think of and then tried to make them out of steel
Yeah.
and then get them to come back to life fully functional. Didn't always happen.
Well, you've had your hands in some pretty iconic builds. Low Lux. What was the
I
other?
was finished 20 years later, which is
Yeah.
amazing.
What was the? You had your hands in a couple others. What were those?
Yeah, so Drag Daily or Daily Dragger, that really crazy chassis by Aaron
Yeah.
Toyota. That's the truck that I originally interviewed at Mini Truckin' With when it was kind of stock, just bagged, and cut up. But that got turned into a full frame chassis, tube chassis with coilovers and lockout cantilever bags and just madness. It's actually still at Chassis by Aaron. They're working on it again to put it under, I think, Kevin's Toyota.
So somebody else has it now.
Yeah, yeah, another one 20 years later. But yeah, that one, the S10 at Sadistic Ironworks, Bobby, first full frame truck built. It was before there were mandrel bent rails. It was literally a cutoff wheel and tie straps to bend the frame to get it, front to back, full frame, full chassis. That was in 2000, 25 years ago.
But you've dabbled in Euro cars, classic cars. You've kind of had your hands in everything, right?
Yeah, one of the third SEMA car I think was an Audi A4 S4 line for ADV one wheels. Right.
Yeah, behind you.
But yeah, that was fun. I mean, really, like because I just love custom cars,
Same.
all genres. And when you see something, like you are, when you see it factory, you know what it should look like, all
Yep.
done. So I wanted to do that with a Euro, with a hot rod, with a truck, with a this, with a that, and just bring it to life. But once it's brought to life, it's kind of like, what's next?
Same way. I'm like, once the wrenches get put away in the toolbox, you're like, all right, I'm bored with this one. It's on to the next one.
Yeah, kind of that the vision in your head. Once you bring it to life, that's kind of interesting segue. That's kind of what I do with pistols now, a little side hobby, right? Like I
Yeah.
know what a pistol should look like and I want to do that. And then once I do that, okay, next one, next one, next one.
And that's the things like me and Mike's actually got, a mutual friend that I'd had some gun work done by a shop in California that is actually who Mike bought the stock Lolux from, and which now he works
Yep.
half a mile from my house. So
Yep. At
it,
Microtech. What's
it's
up,
crazy
buddy?
how the people that you meet in your life from all over the country get brought together over social media like this.
Yeah. And just a love of, not leaving anything alone. Like whatever is stock, I don't care if it's a Microtech knife, a pistol, a car, this computer that I'm on, like
Yeah.
nothing around me is stock.
Same way I have to change laces out in my shoes when I get them. Like
Yeah.
it's that need to be different. So
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times, I mean, we chop it up all the time, but like ultimately wanting to express yourself and be different is great, but it's having a vision or an idea and wanting to see that idea come to life. I mean, they're all it's your next kid, it's your next kid, it's your next kid, right?
yeah,
Like, you raised a daughter, like you to see something grow up and be nurtured and come to life, not that cars are the same, but like that's kind of what you do. You see the vision when you first get it factory. And you're like,
yeah.
all right, how can I make this the best version of this thing it can be? And that's what we're doing now with the kids. We're trying
Trying to mold them into that. So
the best they can be, so they live happy lives and can enjoy everything that this
well,
world has.
don't blink because you're gonna be like me, and mine's 24 now. So it's like, you remember when she was
Yeah,
little. So
it's crazy, right? Out of school, out of college, full time jobs. She's
yep.
in marketing or something now, yeah.
I think she's getting to get bumped up to assistant property manager at the
Mm,
apartment complex she lives at,
okay.
works at, all that. So
Okay. Yeah. It goes so fast. You're right, man. Like, just reminiscing with you, all these memories, great memories, but like a blink of an eye, just a flash. It's crazy.
it is cool to see your transition from the young mini trucker into the full out businessman now to talk to you now versus talking to you in '06, '07 is completely different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would imagine, and I would hope so. But here's the thing, Brandon. You know as well as I know, you can't be old and wise if you weren't young and dumb.
Yep. I still think one of the best comments is that I text you about that a couple weeks ago when you posted all your Christmas pictures, and I showed my wife. It's like, oh, here's Mike and his family, and she goes, "That's his wife," and I go, "Yeah." She goes, "She looks way too nice for him."
She is way too nice for me, but she keeps me honest.
I told that to Eddie Sabrico when I had him on. He goes, now that that's said out loud, he goes, I kind of see the same thing in that. So
She is way too nice for me, but man,
it's cool to see. Like I said, your progression. I've kind of been in the shadow of you for the most part for 20 years. I know when I first got into the magazine world, like you were one of those few that I looked up to. Like I didn't get to run around with everybody on the West Coast like you did. Like I would see you at a show here or there, or talk to you on email. But me trying to get my break in the magazine world like I did, you were one of those larger than life people for me.
mm-hmm.
So, and I've always held your opinion, in high regard. So this goes back to the beginning. It's like, I'm not trying to pump your, your head up on this, but you've definitely guided me in the right direction on multiple things, as over the last 20 years, from everything from first off to, the last couple of years.
Yeah, for sure.
I
Well,
think,
I've enjoyed it too. I mean, like, here's my hot take. Like, there's always amazing photographers like Johnny O who we can learn from. There's always amazing writers we can learn from. But I've always tried to surround myself with genuine people who just want to do good work, regardless of what it is, So there's people that come and go where you're like, they're not going to stick around. This isn't for them. But when you're truly, dedicated and passionate like yourself, or, Solomon, or anybody who's like actually cares, you can tell that,
yeah.
when you care and you want to give it your all, you know me, I'll answer a text at 2 a.m. But if you don't care and you're just in it for the wrong reasons, get lost. This industry isn't for you.
Now you can't get you on the phone, but you can get a text from you.
I'll text you back anytime. Don't call me.
But you're literally, between family and works and everything you've got going on, you're probably one of the busiest industry people I know of. I don't know how you find time to do ball practice and all that stuff with everything you're doing.
Yeah, I make it a point, man. It's not easy. Sleep a little less, but you get it done,
So what's the future hold for Mike Alexander? I mean, other than the airlift stuff you're doing, where do you see you going?
Well, I'm currently just loving, like you said, being with the kids, ball practice, fitting in that quality of lifetime with the business and running new products and expanding product lines. Currently very happy, very blessed with where I'm at right now. And that's another thing. I think we're always kind of chasing something, but when you settle in and just start to enjoy kind of where you're at and what's around you, I think that's a different important look, or a different season in life. Like, I'm not going to go buy a Corvette midlife crisis yet, but I'm starting to settle down a little bit.
At least get one of the kids out of the house before you get that Corvette, because they both can't ride in it.
There you go. Exactly.
I can see you in like a C5, one of those old, you look like that New Balance kind of guy.
I mean, it's funny you say that. I just got my first pair.
Hopefully they're not white with the blue end on the side of them.
Blue with tan ends.
Okay, that's a little bit different. So
they're kind of cool. They're trying. New Balance is trying. We'll give it to them.
Well, I know we had to, keep this one short, but like I said, Mike's always running and going and doing what he needs to do. So I'm just glad that we finally had a chance to at least sit down for a minute. Maybe one day when you have a little more time, we can sit down and go over some of your builds separately. So
yeah, absolutely.
But trying to find time with you to do that might be the hard part. So
we'll book it 30 minutes at a time. One build, next build, next build.
Then I'll just edit it all together. Mike Alexander, vehicle 1, part 2, part 3. So
never finished 1, never finished 2.
But at least I did get to shoot your first finished one. That was pretty cool. Before you ever seen it.
Shots are some of my favorite when you took it out. Like, that's one of my favorite shoots still to this day.
Out there by the river.
Yep.
And then Brandon was dragging the shit out of it after we got done shooting. He goes, "It's finished now. It's not mine. I don't care."
You sent me that or text me that. I was like, wait, what?
Sparks off a truck before you even get to see it.
But hey, man, we drove that truck to Show Fest from California. We drove that thing everywhere.
Drove it to almost all the way to SEMA from West Virginia.
Yeah, that was on accident. It wasn't supposed to happen, but we drove it to SEMA from his shop.
Well, you made it to what, St. Louis or something before you had to?
Yeah, one of the other trucks we were with, I think Mike Cotton's square body, something happened, an axle broke, or another truck had to pull off the trailer. So I was like, hey, man, this one's built to drive. I'll back it down the trailer, and, you can load yours up, and we'll see how far we can get. And, 2 days later, we were at SEMA, so I drove it all across country to clean it up. And that was actually a really fun SEMA. Quick side note, Ernie and I showed our trucks together, parked next to each other at SEMA.
His GMC, wasn't it?
No, the Mitsu.
Yeah, that's
Mitsu.
right.
So that year, we actually had a pretty good mini truck representation at SEMA, which doesn't happen nowadays, but that was a pretty memorable year, and I miss that guy a lot.
Yeah. Well, Alexa, appreciate you coming on. I know you're busy, so I'll let you run, but we'll definitely have to get back together and do this again. Get a little more depth on Mr. Mike Alexander.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. We'll see y'all.
I appreciate it.